How's it going, everybody? Interesting weekend around the United States and locally where I live. It makes you wonder, since we have so many individuals who aren't at work right now, why we're not seeing these protests more often. Now, I get it in a way. The weekends are times where we're traditionally kind of conditioned to gather and everything, but let's read a couple articles real quick and then kind of talk about what's been going on. Liberate, as Trump was talking about, in terms of Minnesota, Michigan, and Virginia. So it says here, land of the free, healthcare workers are heckled by anti-lockdown protesters as they stand in front of their cars in Colorado, and more demonstrations. Healthcare workers clashed with anti-lockdown protesters in Colorado on Sunday, defiantly standing in front of the cars of demonstrators who flocked to the state capitol in their hundreds to urge Governor Jared Polis to lift the 19-induced stay-at-home orders. Protests against state lockdowns implemented to combat the novel CV outbreak continued nationwide this afternoon, as fervent disdain for restrictions that have shut down much of the country's economy continues to slowly spread across the United States. Titled Operation Gridlock, the day's largest demonstration took place in Denver, where hundreds of protesters ignored social distancing guidelines to huddle together on the lawn of the state capitol, waving flags emblazoned with slogans such as, "Your health does not supersede my right," "Freedom over fear," and "I would rather risk CV than socialism." Mobilized by a number of groups on social media, the protesters called Governor Polis a tyrant and insisted the ongoing economic cost of the shutdown was no longer worth the few lives it could save. But the protesters' efforts weren't met without resistance. A group of healthcare workers stood in the street, clad in their scrubs and face masks, to counter-protest the calls for reopening, silently obstructing cars as they drove down towards the Capitol. Now, you like that, right? They call it a standoff, this huge, standoff, they're really getting at it. No, come on. Sensationalized headlines once again. Individuals in their cars honking their horns at people, healthcare workers standing there silently for the most part, except you'll see in the photos. Let's scroll through some of these real quick. Liberation never looked so good. All right, so you get it based on the photos and what I read. I'll leave this on the screen here if you wanted to pause it and go ahead and kind of read some more of that. But the clash is obviously between healthcare workers mainly and their supporters and individuals who do want to open up because, and actually I should say all frontline workers I would think would be like the healthcare workers because they're the individuals that would be at the greatest risk of getting sick. So definitely from the healthcare individual's perspective, I get it. But at the same time, it's this battle, it's this conflict I have internally where I'm trying to see things from all sides, and you know how it is in America. We're spoiled with our liberties. Granted, we should have more based on the Constitution and a lot of things that have been taken away from us. We're spoiled here in the amount of freedoms we have relative to other countries. So, like I've said in my other videos, as time goes on, more and more people are going to get frustrated by this, and less people are going to be willing to stay inside and see their jobs disappear, see their ways of life disappear, and definitely from their perspective, I can get it as well. So that's the conflict I have within myself every day when I try to think about this, when I'm trying to think through what's the best course of action. How do we manage safety with the economic needs of individuals to go out there and work? Because we're Americans, baby. That's what we do. We get out there and work our ass off. And that's why we're the best country there is. And if you're watching this in other countries, hey, no offense, baby, but I've always got to represent for the USA. And again, like I said, that's what makes us number one. It's what we do. That's in our DNA. Working hard, playing hard, that's in our DNA. And we can't do any of that right now. So I certainly can understand how individuals are getting frustrated by this. But at the same time, I see it from the perspective of the healthcare workers as well, because they're definitely the individuals who are most at risk of this. And I know a lot of healthcare workers, so like I said, that's personal for me. I've said that in past videos. So that's the way I'm trying to see it from both sides. But as I said, as the weeks go on, you're going to see individuals start to get more and more militant with this, in my opinion. That'd be my prediction. I think we can stand a certain amount of this, but at some point, it becomes a bit too much. It's like, hey, the way we're conditioned, like I said, with our freedoms, that leads to a situation where we're not going to really tolerate much more of this. So I don't see things opening up on May 1st. I think that's pretty, in my opinion, that's probably too soon. We're not talking about a full opening, obviously, but little by little, I think May 1st may be too soon. Now, for me, I know I can hang in there a bit longer. My situation's different than some of yours is probably. This hasn't affected my own personal economy. So if it has affected yours, I can understand, like today, right? Like I totally get it and I'm totally with you. And I definitely see things from your perspective. I don't always think about things from my perspective. If it's affecting individuals' personal economies more than the sickness of the virus could, then yeah, I get it. But again, it's tricky. There's so many complexities and so many layers to it. A piecemeal opening by May 1st, I don't see it. May 15th, maybe, but June 1st, if you're going to tell me that we don't have things open by June 1st, at least starting to reopen slowly, I really can see a lot of problems. And granted, that's about 6 weeks away, but I can see a lot of problems with individuals getting more and more militant. Not in a bad way. We're not going to be out there with guns shooting people and stuff like that. But I can see it becoming a situation where individuals get less and less understanding of it all. And it seems to me that a lot of the more conservative types are the ones that are leading the charge on this right now. As the weeks go by, I can definitely see more libertarians. I'm sure they're out there now, but more democratic left-wing type individuals coming out in support of this as well. So here's the bottom part of the article if you wanted to finish reading that, and I'll just pause it here, but I'm going to go scroll through after this and show you guys some more photos real quick. Looks like there's some more. Again, pause it here if you want to read that. Still more. This is a long article. Here's more of the article. It goes on. We're not even halfway done, but I'll link it in the archive if you wanted to go ahead and read the whole thing. But let me switch to something locally near where I live. This happened this past weekend. Hundreds gather in California to protest stay-at-home orders. And this is just one city here. More than 200 protesters gathered in Huntington Beach, California, in what was the latest demonstration in the United States against stay-at-home orders under the novel pandemic. The March for Freedom event took place Friday afternoon in the intersection of Walnut and Main Streets in the downtown area of Huntington Beach, about 40 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Some protesters held signs, "Quarantine the sick, not the healthy," and "Open Cali Now." One protester wore what appeared to be a faux hazmat suit, donning a sign that said the virus was a lie. The event described itself as a march for freedom, liberty, and reopening the California economy. So you see what happens here in the media, how the story's told, right? There was one individual wearing the hazmat suit with this "the virus is a lie" sign, and that individual gets mentioned in the story. And you see how those types of individuals who are out there saying stuff like that, the media will use that and twist it against individuals who are for opening California up. They'll use it in a way to make those individuals seem crazy or seem like conspiracy theorists or seem like whack jobs. So they'll definitely use individuals like that to hurt the cause of the individuals who are just out there wanting to go back to work. It's individuals like that they're definitely going to put into a story to make sure that individuals who are for the continuation of the quarantine see this individual like this and say, "Oh, it's a lie. Oh, everybody on that side of it who wants to reopen, oh, they all think it's a lie, but I'm seeing people get sick." So you know how the media does it. Like other demonstrations across the country, some protesters struck a partisan tone and waved Trump 2020 flags. Police said in a statement they were called to the scene, and while it was initially small, it quickly grew to a group of over 200 people. "We are asking our community and those that visit Huntington Beach to remember, we are under an executive order by the state, which specifically states that all residents of California should stay home in an effort to help flatten the curve in regard to community spread of the 19, HBPD said in a statement. "The more people are out and gathered in groups, the more 19 will spread in our community and endanger lives." Police noted that they understood emotions are high and many are frustrated with the current executive order. No arrests were made at the protest, police said. And that's what I heard on the news. I heard that it was, a small gathering. Police came out when they requested that individuals disperse. Again, right to peaceable assembly, but we're not going to get into that right now. When they asked for the individuals to disperse, the individuals did so. No arrests, like it said, no drama, just individuals out there doing what they're allowed to do under the Constitution. So, like I said, it's such a complex issue, right? You try to weigh it I acknowledge that something's going on. I'm not going to say there's no virus. I'm not going to say it's any more or less detrimental than any flu in any particular season. My feeling is this: I just love to see individuals partaking in the rights afforded to them under the Constitution. At the same time, maybe I would go to one of these, but I'd be rocking my swag. So I definitely wouldn't want one of those individuals out there getting me sick, and then me in turn getting a loved one, somebody I care about, a friend, or anybody like that that I may come across, or a stranger that I may come across. I wouldn't want to get them sick. So a lot of individuals out there weren't wearing masks. Hey, do what you got to do, but if I went to one of these, I would definitely be wearing a mask. Now, again, getting back to it real quick, here's the question that's always lingering in my head, and I'll just leave you with this, something to think about, that before we had developed a vaccine for the flu, for whatever strains we have, how many ever there are, again, I don't know the science at all, how many there are, but say we didn't have a vaccine like we don't have for this. Would this be any more or less harmful to our population, not having a vaccine for this particular strain of the novel virus? This is just my feeling. It's that when we get a vaccine at some point, then if the strain becomes something that's seasonal, that it would just become an afterthought. It would just become like our flu that we really don't pay attention to, even though on average, what they say, in a given year, 12 to 60,000 people perish from it. And I think they said the average in the past 10 years was about 35,000 per year. So once we get to a point where we have a vaccine, and say 5 years from now, say this thing becomes a seasonal thing or part of our seasonal flus with all the other strains, that will we still talk about this? Will we still lock it down? Obviously having a vaccine is different, but will we look back at it and say, hey, it was just like our normal flu, we just didn't have a vaccine for it. Now we have a vaccine for it. Now it's just a yearly thing that we just don't even think about. We don't even consider the number of deaths, the number of people who get it. I don't know. Hopefully that's making sense to you guys, but that's just what I've been thinking about, is years down the road, will we just look back at this as, say in 2025, are we going to just look at this thing, this particular strain, and say, hey, it's here again. It's going to take X number of lives, but we have a vaccine. So that's just how I think about it. I'm not going to be one of those individuals who say it doesn't exist, because something's happening. But again, my feeling is that it's as simple as another strain that we just don't have a vaccine for. And all of these other strains that we have that come around yearly, it would have been the same thing if we didn't have a vaccine and we didn't shut the country down those times when we didn't have the vaccine. I could be wrong on that. Hopefully it turns out that I'm right and this isn't something that's more serious and mutates into something more serious and comes back again next year just as strong. I don't want to see a situation where we have to go shut down the economy every year because of this, because it definitely can cause harm for individuals in different ways. The economy, like I said, it's what we do as Americans. We go out there, we bust our ass, we work hard, and we play hard. So those are my thoughts on it. But thanks for watching the video, everybody. Let me know what you think. Take care. Be well.